All right, what's up, guys? Hope you're doing well. James here from jamesdforsythe.com. So, normally when I do these book reviews, I just do them over topics like the Federal Reserve, maybe the monetary system, that sort of thing. But I kind of want to start branching out and doing some of the other more businessy slash investing ones that I read as well, just because I think that's kind of fundamentally important for people, and just kind of putting my thoughts out of books that I've already read, sort of thing. So I finished this one this morning. It's called The Win-Win Wealth Strategy: 7 Investments the Government Will Pay You to Make. It's by Tom Wheelwright. He's a CPA. He's one of the Rich Dad Advisors. There's a kind of cover. If there's not too much glare, I'll put a link to it in the description as well, as always, like I do with everything. But he also is known for training. He said thousands of CPAs professionally. He was also a adjunct professor at the Masters of Tax in Arizona State University, which he was that for 14 years apparently. So he knows what he's talking about. He has multiple businesses, to my knowledge, about that sort of thing, right? And so the book kind of teaches you exactly what it says. It gives 7 different categories of basically ways you could invest that the government will essentially pay you to do, right? And he breaks those down into the 7 sections he has is business, tech, which tech and R&D sort of thing, research and development, real estate, energy, agriculture, insurance, and retirement savings. And especially the latter two, I was actually kind of surprised about because I'm rather ignorant on that sort of thing, at least in the tax side of things in that respect, right? And I thoroughly enjoyed it because he really goes, I'm not gonna say in depth, but he gives you like the basic knowledge to where it's like, okay, you know enough where you can go to a tax advisor and like talk to them, and they can help you through it, right? You're not basically just kind of blindly being held through it, more or less. You kind of get more of a little bit of a fundamental sort of thing. He runs through the numbers a lot. He has tons of charts, um, and tables and that sort of thing. And one of the things that he did, and I thought was really helpful, was giving all the different countries that kind of do the same thing, right? So like a lot of major countries that you see the question a lot of the times that it's like you can't do that here sort of thing for taxes. And like the page that's just randomly open to shows a table for incentives for developing and owning rental properties, and basically just lists, see, Argentina, Australia, Canada, France, Germany, India, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Singapore, South Korea, Spain, Taiwan, the UK, and the US. And they're all checked yes, saying that they all have incentives for developing and owning rental properties. And basically off to the right in the notes section, he gives exactly what the incentives are, and sometimes even citing like, okay, this is the code you need to go to, or what your tax advisor should know, I'd assume, to help you get there. So like for the United States, he says Home Improvement Partnerships Program, and then the LIHTC program, and then gain restrictions apply, just to kind of give you the basics, I guess, sort of thing. And one of the biggest things that this book kind of changed my mind about, especially with respect to taxes, is like how is his concept of you're all kind of partners with the government in a way, and you can be active or passive. And so like most people are rather passive into where they basically just collect the paycheck and the government takes income tax out, and that's pretty much it. You do your tax return at the end of the year and that's it. That's all. You're done. Rather than like if you have a business or you're an investor in any of the other categories, um, there's a lot more into it, but the incentives are a hell of a lot more. And one of the biggest things that I really liked about the book was when he's running through the numbers, he gives it for each of the 7 categories. He gives like from the government's perspective of things, and he basically goes through and is like, hey, with the government funding this, like through tax incentives or deductions or whatever, right? Whichever the case may be for it, and whatever example he gives, basically at the very end, it's like he's like, this is their ROI on this, given basically the incentive they provided through taxes. How much money do they actually make for this in this example? And he actually runs through numbers and shows the somewhat obnoxious returns that the governments make sometimes, with this respect. And then he does it from the investor side of thing, or the businessman side of thing, whatever it happens to be, right? And so he shows both sides, runs the numbers for both sides, and it's actually, I think it's really helpful and really kind of eye-opening when you look at it from that kind of perspective of you're kind of partnering with the government. And a lot of the times, like his last chapter is like basically how to have the government pay for your Ferrari sort of thing. And he gives an example of a guy that I believe either he helped him with or he knew of or some form or fashion. But basically, he has a few examples of this, basically not just Ferraris, but that's the example he chose, right? And basically it was like he had the guy, instead of buying the Ferrari outright, he like bought I think it was a real estate syndication. And then basically the taxes, the first year's total deductions and depreciation were basically used for like the down payment of the car, of a Ferrari. And then from there, basically the annual tax deductions and that sort of thing were enough to cover the not mortgage, I don't know, the car payment throughout the years, which was like $40,000 a year or so that it added up to. It's like $3,500 a month, I think, off the top of my head. But yeah, it's definitely eye-opening. It's not that long too. It's only like 160 something pages in terms of like content. And then he's got a lot of footnotes, which I always enjoy when they have, or not footnotes, endnotes, when they have that sort of thing, because it's always like a bunch of references. He has further charts in the endnotes and that sort of thing. And he just explains it in a way that you don't typically think about it. And once you do, it like kind of opens your eyes to how things actually work, I think, or how they can work, I guess, if you want to actually do it. But it makes me want to actually sit down with the tax advisor and kind of try to figure this stuff out and do a bit more than just the whole like W-2 sort of tax returns and stuff like that. But I highly recommend reading it. I thought it was very helpful. Again, it's a rather quick read. I have a lot of highlights because there's a lot of facts in there that I think are really helpful. There's like, I didn't know that sort of thing for basically every category. He has a few financial statements in there in terms of like kind of showing where things go. Like it's significantly helpful, I think. But and shows the difference between corporate tax rates, individual tax rates. Like there's a lot of stuff in there. The goals of the government, of what they actually want to do, that sort of thing. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up, put it out there because I thought it was interesting for one, and it kind of definitely going to implement it because I really wanted to read it before the end of this year so that I could kind of possibly not necessarily affect my taxes this year because I'm not sure how that would happen or how that would change or how I could change that with as much time as there is left being in October. But definitely kind of learning how to set things up in the future and becoming more kind of financially literate in that respect. But anyways, I just kind of wanted to share that with you guys and put it out there. So I'm going to leave this one here. I guess one more time. That's what the cover looks like. It's kind of like a money tree on the front. Maybe move it back and it might be more helpful so that the glare from the light's not too bad on the white cover. But anyways, I'm going to leave this one here. So I hope you guys have a good night and I will see you on the next one.